Hello, folks. Welcome back to the Night's Watch. I'm Jacob.
I'm Alex.
And, folks, we're hockey fans. You know us. More specifically, we're Vegas Golden Knights fans. Now, Alex, I don't know if you knew this. Apparently, that's a pretty big taboo.
Yeah, apparently people don't like the fact that there are actual fans of the Vegas Golden Knights.
It's a pretty big no-no. And I don't know if you knew this. Knights fans aren't real. I don't know what icing is. I don't know what hockey is. I just show up.
Just watch games.
I just show up for the party. Show up for the party. When we went to the Cup Parade, there's no fans there. People just kind of saw it and just kind of flocked to the noise.
Yeah. Just because we didn't burn our city down means we're not real fans.
Yeah, there's no fans. This is quite the phenomenon, though, that I kind of wanted to get into. I don't know if you saw this. I posted it on our socials, but JFresh, the hockey analytics page, they had a poll about most liked and most disliked teams in the league. Mm-hmm. And you want to guess who finished last as the most hated team in the league?
Us.
Yeah, it was us. The goal team is bad. The goal team is very, very bad. But it wasn't always this way. It seems like not so long ago, we were these kind of scrappy underdogs, the little brother. And I was kind of curious as to where this hatred started. And looking back, I think there's kind of a clear timeline, and I kind of want to get into it if you're okay with that.
Yeah.
So to get to the end, you have to start at the beginning.
Mm-hmm.
So when Vegas came into the league, and this is something admittedly I forgot, when the expansion process was happening, there were two cities that were in the final stretches. They made it to phase 3 of the expansion process. It was Las Vegas and Quebec City.
That's right. Yep.
So I have a feeling that we didn't start off on the right foot because we beat Quebec City in the bid. We get our team in the desert, non-traditional as it gets. Canada, they lose out on their team. I don't know if you knew this, Alex. Gary Bettman, he hates Canada, man.
Hates Canada.
He hates Canada.
Even though Quebec City lost, as we previously spoke about last episode, lost a team.
I don't know if you knew this, but Toronto and Montreal are two of the three biggest teams bringing an income to the league. So Gary Bettman, naturally, he hates them.
Hates them.
He hates them.
Absolutely hates them, even though they're the biggest moneymakers.
It's logical. It only makes sense. It only makes sense.
Well, why wouldn't he gift their profitability with just a gifted cup?
Exactly. So, hey, man, Quebec City, they deserve that team. As you and I both know, it is a garbage idea to put a team in the desert. Such a garbage idea that there's even a local brewery that has a beer named Garbage Idea to put a hockey team in the desert. Right off the bat, I don't think we quite had the goodwill that one might expect. Moving into that first year, a key part of our identity was the way that we built our roster, I'd say. Mm-hmm. The Golden Misfits. Mm-hmm. We took off the cast-offs from other teams. And a lot of people forget this. A lot of people think that we're gifted a team. I don't know if you knew this, Alex. We were gifted a championship team by the league because Gary Bettman wants his little pet in his non-traditional market to do well.
Exactly.
That's exactly what happened, folks. That's why Cody Eakin was our first line center on night one. We all know Cody Eakin. He doesn't play in the league anymore, but he's a true first line center.
Yeah, that's why our defense included Lucas Abisa and Derek England and
Alex. We were gifted a championship team. It's all corrupt. It's all dirty dealings, Alex. No, but what really happened, and why I do think people hate us is. Our management team really fleeced the league and made them look like fools, essentially. My favorite example being Florida. They're so desperate to get rid of Jonathan Marchessault, so they just throw in Riley Smith for free. Yep. Or is it the other way around? Either way, they gave us 2/3 of our first line, that year. Shea Theodore.
Nothing. Yep.
Just throw him from the Ducks.
Yep.
Bill Carlson. They asked Torts about it, and he said, if I knew he was that good, I wouldn't have let him go.
Yep.
Well, whose fault is that, man? I mean, you should probably know your own team. Who knew? Who knew? It's not like you work with them every day.
Exactly.
It's not like you practice with them every day. Who could have known? But again, this is Gary Bettman pulling strings, Alex. He created the situation. So already, year one, I think there's some ill will towards Vegas. Perhaps a little saltiness. Perhaps some sour grapes, one might say.
Even though everybody was predicting that Vegas would be the worst team in the history of the NHL.
Well, see, Alex, I know it may seem that way. if you go back and you look at all the sports news articles, you look at all the tweets, you look at all the Reddit posts, it's full of people saying that we would be bottom of the league, bottom of the division.
Yep.
But Alex, that's all fake news, man.
Fake news.
That
now.
is fake news. Because we were gifted a championship team by Gary Bettman. Thank you, Gary, by the way. I have a shrine to you in my closet. I pray at it frequently.
Yep. Same.
But yeah, so that first year, we were pretty successful. Pretty successful, I'd say. Great time, you know. That's how I got into hockey. I'm a bandwagon fan. I had a lot of fun going to games with my mother.
Bandwagon fan off the first year.
Oh yeah, it was great. Good time, good vibes. So obviously we did not pay our dues. We were too good, Alex. We were too good, too quick. We did not pay our dues. Folks, I don't know if you knew this, but hockey teams, they should not try to succeed. What they should try to do is be bad to really test the willpower of the local market.
Yeah.
That's why Arizona has been such a success, you know. You give them a shitty team for 20 years and eventually they move. And then you get to see, I told you so, there's no real fans.
Yep. I mean, if that was the case, Toronto would have moved probably about 30 years ago. So,
well, Alex, they paid their dues. The dues have been paid, so you can be bad while pretending that you're good. Anywho, so we make the cup final that year. We eliminate some teams along the way. We eliminate the Kings, the Sharks, and the Jets.
Yep.
The Kings, maybe people were sick of them at the time. They'd had a lot of success. Either way, quite the upset, I would say.
Yep.
Sharks, same thing. One might say the Sharks had paid their dues and they were due. Didn't make it past the second round.
Yep.
And then the Jets. I think this is where a lot of it starts, really. We eliminate a Canadian team.
In the Western Conference Final.
Yep. And not just any Canadian team, but the definition of plucky underdog Canadian team.
Yeah.
You know, they lost their team. They got to come back. You know, definition of, you know, successful tale of a small shit splat Canadian city getting a major league team.
Yep.
They don't have an airport, by the way. Anyway, so we beat the Jets. We beat the Jets. Make it to the finals. We get humbled pretty quickly by the Capitals. Ovi gets his first cup. I think people were ready to move on at that point. But it doesn't stop there. One thing, Alex, I don't know if you knew this. One thing that hockey fans hate is when you try to make your team better. They don't like that. That's overreaching. You're reaching for the stars. So year 2, we acquire Max Pacioretty and Mark Stone, and we give up some pretty good prospects to do it. That's a no-no, Alex. I don't know if you knew this. Making your team better is bad.
Bad, especially when you're giving up prospects.
That's a bad thing. Conventional wisdom says that you should hang on to your prospects, hope that one day they become a really solid third-line center, and just be humble, man. Just be thankful for what you got. Don't go, no big trades. Don't go after free agents. Be humble. And certainly what you don't do is you don't take star players from the Montreal Canadiens or the Ottawa Senators.
God forbid.
And you don't make them look like fools. You certainly don't do that. Moving on, year 3. So we got humbled year 2 in the playoffs, right? I did kind of have this sense that other fans were like, hey, Vegas finally knows pain. They can find, you know, they got fucked out of that first round. They finally know pain. We can accept them in the fold. And maybe if we'd stood pat, they would have kept with that. But we didn't stand pat. So year 3, we're still not humble. We fire Gerard Gallant. We bring in Peter DeBoer. That was shocking. People were like, how can you fire Gerard Gallant at this time?
Yep.
Your team does not deserve to be where they are. You should be groveling at Gerard Gallant's feet. He won the Jack Adams. Who fires their Jack Adams winner? I mean, nowadays everyone does. But back then it was pretty shocking.
Yep. Back then, as if it wasn't, 6 years ago.
Things change quickly, Alex. So, as I'm sure you recall, that was the COVID year. Season comes to a halt. Before it does, we make some pretty big moves. We acquire Martinez, Cousins, and Leonard. We let go of Eakin and Subban, so some OG Knights leave. We bring in some good players. COVID happens, and then we go to the bubble. So the bubble, I think, again, there's two things, really, that really kind of solidified our reputation. One, we eliminated those scrappy Chicago Blackhawks. Jonathan Toews and Patrick Kane wanted another run at it, and we said no.
Yep.
And also, we played the Vancouver Canucks, who were only there because of the format, and they weren't very good. They were okay. They had some young stars, They still had Jacob Markstrom. They had Thatcher Demko as the rising star in the back. and we play the Vancouver Canucks in the bubble. Now, to me, this is the turning point. Thomas Drance, reporter, covers the Vancouver Canucks. He was in the bubble. Due to the lack of crowd noise, he was able to hear every chirp and every insult between Vegas and Vancouver benches.
Yep.
And he was sure to tweet out all the Vegas chirps. He painted quite the picture of the big bad Vegas Golden Knights stomping on these young upcoming rapscallions, these hopeful upstarts, the Vancouver Canucks. They were just trying to bring success to their city. They had been suffering for so long, Alex, for so long, because of Louis Erickson's contract and other things. So they deserve some success. They were the upstarts. But we were there to shut that down. So to me, really, that's where public opinion really started to turn. Because we were being arrogant. We had not earned it, Alex. We had not earned it. How dare we eliminate these Cinderella teams, these Cinderella Canadian teams. After that, we signed Alex Pietrangelo. We trade Nate Schmidt and Paul Stastny. And that kind of became our MO for a while, right? We're big game hunting. We get the biggest UFA on the market. I'm sure a lot of teams would have loved to have Alex Pietrangelo on their team.
Yep.
So to me, again, the attitude, the way this was received is, who do we think we are, man? Who do we think we are? These arrogant upstarts. They're not satisfied. They made it to the conference finals, and they're not satisfied. They're still trading their good players, buying big, chasing stars. Who do we think we are? Playoffs that year, we eliminate Minnesota. First year that Minnesota had been good in a long time.
Yep.
Most notably, well, for me, most notable was eliminating Colorado, everyone's cup favorite pick that year.
That year, yep.
A lot of people told me, like, no, everyone knew it was a 50-50. No, everyone was going for Colorado. And then we play the Montreal Canadiens. Now, Alex, how good were the Montreal Canadiens that year?
I would put that team, if it was this year, they would probably barely squeak into the playoffs at a wild card, if not miss it.
Agreed. Who were they playing that year in the modified format for COVID?
The worst versions of the current Canadian teams that are there.
Exactly. How many Canadian contenders are there really?
2.
Yeah. So they got a pretty big reputation by beating up on, the Ottawa Senators and the Calgary Flames and the Winnipeg Jets and,
the Leafs and the Oilers at the time. Yep.
Yeah. The pre-Ekholm Leafs, the pre-Hyman Leafs. I mean,
not
Oilers.
Oilers, yeah.
Whatever.
Hyman was probably on those teams.
I know. They all blend together, folks. They all blend together. So we play the Montreal Canadiens, and I think this is where it hit its peak. This is where the hatred, it became like an unwritten rule that we are the most hated team in the league by everyone. Because, again, Montreal was this magical Cinderella run, dude. Magical Cinderella run. Steve Dangle is wearing a Canadiens fucking jersey on his podcast, man. Steve Dangle, after they got eliminated by the Canadiens, he was wearing a Canadiens jersey. Yep. Because Team Canada, bro.
Yep.
Team Canada. They were this close to glory. And so they faced the big bad Vegas Golden Knights. And I don't know if you knew this, but every single penalty that they committed was false. It was fictional. It was all the refs. They committed 0 penalties in a 6-game series. It was all the refs. It's clear, Alex. Gary Bettman and the refs were out to stop everyone's fun. So we lose. You would think that maybe the hatred would calm down a little bit, but not really, because that offseason we trade Marc-Andre Fleury. I will admit I was very upset by this. Very upset by this. And I think that's valid. We'll get into that another time.
I agree. Yep.
Despite the fact that a few short weeks before, everyone was telling us that Fleury's Vezina wasn't real. It was a Lifetime Achievement Award. He didn't deserve it. A few short weeks later, we trade him, and everyone said, well, how can you trade your Vezina goalie? Who does that? What kind of heartless, backstabbing organization does that? It doesn't matter if the Vezina was real or not. You just don't do these things, Alex. You need to have loyalty. So I would say reputation was at an all-time low. We have our home opener. It's against the Kraken in their first ever game. Chandler Stevenson wins the game off a puck deflecting off his skate. Now, I don't know if you remember this. It's burned into my mind. His skate did not leave the ice. He did not jerk his leg.
Not kick it.
And then, so they called it a good goal. Now, Alex, that was clearly, again, Vegas Golden refs. Clearly, it was a kick.
Mm-hmm.
It was clearly a kick because Gary Bettman, again, favors his expansion teams. I know it was the inaugural game of the Seattle Kraken. That does not count, Alex. It does not count. It only works when it's against us. And then, as I'm sure you recall, that season ended up pretty rough. But about a month into that season, again, we overstep our bounds. We get a little too cocky. We trade for Jack Eichel. We let go of Alex Tuck, a loyal foot soldier. And we let go of Peyton Krebs, a future superstar. Future superstar, folks. I don't know if you knew this. You don't trade prospects. You hang on to them. Because there's no way that Peyton Krebs would ever be a healthy scratch on a good team.
Except for that year.
There's no way that Peyton Krebs, a few short years later, would barely be making the fourth line of the Buffalo Sabres. He's a superstar, man. You got to hang on to those guys. Mm-hmm. Why trade for Jack Eichel when you got Peyton Krebs right there?
Yep.
Again, it seems once again we're overstepping our bounds. We're spending big, and then we miss out on the playoffs. I don't know if you recall. I certainly do. Every fucking hockey social media post, every big account, every newscaster, it was all some variation of the same headline. Well, sometimes you spend big in Vegas and you lose. You get cocky and you lose. Mm-hmm. You deserve it. You spent all these assets and you'll miss the fucking playoffs. You'll never come back. You'll never come back. Now you're just the man leaving the casino with, a hole in his pocket and, no ride, no cell phone, just walking in the desert with nothing. Mm-hmm. And then a year later, we won the cup. So that one I won't get into. It's pretty self-explanatory. Yep. How dare we?
Within the first 6 years.
So that was quite the monologue. I apologize. But I just really wanted to get those events out there. The summary, the thesis, I would say, is...
The worst thing we ever did was try to win.
The worst thing you can do, Alex, is try to make your team better.
Yep. The worst thing up until this season, drafting Trevor Connolly was not a great idea. You look at the talent, you understand it, but you also look at the background of the character, you don't understand it. I mean, not as far as we can see, not a good person. But the worst thing we've ever done before that was doing the same thing that teams have done over the last 30 years of the NHL, trying to get better through trades and picking up contracts and players that were cast-offs are not wanted by the other teams anymore. Something that multiple other teams have done before. Something that Tampa Bay made a career, that Julian Brisebois, Brisebois made a career out of. Also, Tampa Bay has been made out to be a villain, despite doing what you're supposed to do as
won
an
2 cups and made a 3rd cup appearance.
Mm-hmm. They call it ruthlessness and not being loyal to your players, but it's also, do you want to win a cup or do you want to sell tickets? There are plenty of teams in this league that are more content to sell tickets
and sell jerseys
than actually winning a championship.
Alex, who doesn't want a Mitch Marner jersey? He's young, he's cute, he's skilled.
Who doesn't want to sell corporate tickets to a lower bowl?
Who doesn't want an Austin Matthews jersey? A signed Austin Matthews puck where they probably lost 7-3 to the Coyotes. But hey, that's a game puck. That's Austin Matthews' signature, pal. That's Austin Matthews.
Hey, we're selling merch. Oh, we're selling tickets. We're selling these corporate accounts. But why would you, as a 6-year-old, now a 7-year-old franchise, dare to even think about being successful in your first 10 years?
Do that, Alex. What you do is you pay your dues, you stay humble, you keep
miserable.
Your head down, you really push that local market to its absolute brink. You should ideally probably be like about a 40-point season, the first 4 seasons or so. And then if they stick around,
you dare to even sniff the wild card.
Yeah, then it's okay to be good. Mm-hmm. It's a foolproof plan. Another big thing, we don't have to get too into it, but the salary cap, folks. The salary cap. It's a thing. It's here to punish teams. Mm-hmm. It's here to punish Canadian teams. Here to punish Original Six teams. I don't know if you guys knew this, but the salary cap applies to all 32 teams equally.
And so do the LTIR rules.
Yeah, the last time I checked, the rule book is not based on what state you're in or what your tax rate is.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of applies to all of them. So that year that we missed the playoffs, that was the first year that Mark Stone missed significant time with us with a back injury.
Mm-hmm. He was trying to rush himself back.
I don't know if you recall this, because everyone loves to. That's everyone's favorite fun little fact. You know, three Februaries in a row, Mark Stone goes on LTIR. Those rascals. They're just trying to stash him for the playoffs. Fun fact, that first year, he was activated during the regular season.
Mm-hmm. We still missed.
Still missed. Second year was the Cup year.
Mm-hmm.
He does not come back in the regular season, but it's because we made some pretty blockbuster trades, Alex. Blockbuster. We got Jonathan Quick for pennies on the dollar with salary retained.
Ivan Barbashev.
We got Ivan Barbashev. I don't know if you guys knew this. Logan Thompson and Laurent Brossoit and William Carrier were pretty fucking beat up. The whole team was pretty beat up.
Mm-hmm.
We were down to Jonathan Quick and Yuri Patera as our two goalies.
Yep.
Because Logan Thompson and Aiden Hill and Laurent Brossoit were all injured. We were on number 4 and 5, and we had to acquire number 5 or number 4, I guess.
Yep.
Another fun fact: once we got to the playoffs and we iced all these guys that we had on the shelf, all our best players, all these guys that we acquired, we finally were able to activate them, and we were still under the salary cap.
Yep.
It's hilarious. I don't know if you guys knew this. But when a player is too injured to play, they don't count against the cap. So we go through the playoffs again, and I think we're pretty well hated at this point, so I didn't. But we do eliminate the Winnipeg Jets again.
First.
We eliminate the Edmonton Oilers.
Second.
I don't know if you knew this, but the Edmonton Oilers, a lot of people like that team. They're seen as favorites by a lot of people.
Just last year, I saw plenty of it where it was anointing Edmonton as Canada's team once they got to the Western Conference Finals.
Yeah, everyone
it was all Edmonton. That's all everybody cared about.
The last 3 months, they were already anointed as kings of the NHL.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's Connor McDavid, man. It's Leon Draisaitl, Matthias Ekholm. That's such a nifty piece of business there. How could you not have this team be your favorite, even though another team played at a higher win percentage than them that spring and also finished ahead of them in the conference and the division? It's the Edmonton Oilers, folks.
But
it's all about the Edmonton Oilers.
It's all about the Edmonton Oilers.
In retrospect, it wasn't particularly close. The turning point in that series, Alex Pietrangelo, man, he slashed Leon Draisaitl right in the wrist. That dirty, dirty bastard. Mm-hmm. He should have been thrown out of the series. He whacked him right on the wrist guard. That's dangerous, man. That's dangerous.
You know what also is very dangerous? Is spearing your opponent continuously for the entire season and the entire playoffs.
Well, Alex, what you fail to understand is that Leon Draisaitl is a superstar. He is a superstar, man. It is a pleasure to watch him play.
Mm-hmm.
It is a pleasure to watch him play. So Alex Pietrangelo should have been thrown out of that series completely. I mean, doesn't matter how many headshots there were. Doesn't matter if Evander Kane is pummeling a helpless opponent on the ground. When Evander Kane does it, that's just being scrappy. Mm-hmm. That's just bringing some heart, bringing some compete level to the team.
Pinning a player down in the corner and throwing multiple fists straight into his unprotected rib area.
Well, it's funny because he had his funny little remark in the post-game presser. I don't even remember what it was. Something about, don't poke the bull or something.
Yeah.
So that was hilarious, man. That was a viral moment. That's just good old-fashioned hockey. But, if Alex Pietrangelo whacks someone on the pad on their wrist, that's dangerous, dude. That should be treated much more harshly than Jacob Trouba trying to execute someone. Much more harshly than Jamie Benn trying to decapitate someone. So, I think that if we were already pretty solidified, but really that really got everyone's goat. And then we win the cup. And I don't know if you knew this, Alex, but that cup parade that we went to, fake news, man. The thousands of people shoulder to shoulder with us in the 110-degree heat, wearing Vegas shirts, Vegas jerseys, waving Vegas flags, cheering, screaming. Those were all tourists. I don't know if you know this, Alex, but tourists in Las Vegas, they love hanging out outside in the heat. It's their favorite thing to do. They just hang out in the street and they hope for a spectacle to happen, and then they just kind of flock to it. Obviously, we're the worst team. We're the most hated team. We're the most villains. Hated team.
We're the villains, despite just doing normal everyday hockey things of just trying to improve.
Oh yeah, I forgot what really set people over the edge was this year. Mark Stone, this guy, goes on LTIR again, lacerated spleen. Now we know it was a grade 3 laceration because Kelly McCrimmon shared that with us because people just didn't quite believe it. They did not quite believe it. This was after, by the way, Elliot Friedman said publicly on his podcast that the league doctors checked both times. And they confirmed that his injuries were legitimate and that the timeline for his return was legitimate. But no, folks, he was just faking it, man. He was just faking it. That's also why we spent all those picks to have salary retained, because we needed all $10 million of that salary cap hit. And it's funny because, people love to say, isn't it convenient? Isn't it so convenient that Mark Stone just gets injured every February? How could that possibly happen? I don't know, man. To me, if you have an aging power forward that plays 110% every game, he gets injured at the 60 game mark. That just can't happen.
Yep.
That's not realistic. That would never happen.
No.
How could that happen?
No.
I don't know. But this is clearly the biggest sin conceivable. The biggest sin conceivable.
A sin that's not nearly as bad as putting your player on LTIR, hiring a man that covered up a sexual assault, covered up a sex criminal, and then allowed him to go on to prey on other young men in colleges and in high schools, in minors, and have consequence face him for 2 years.
That sounds awful, Alex. Who would hire a man like this?
Oh no. Maybe it would be just the wonderful, wonderful team in the North, Canada's team, the Edmonton Oilers.
Alex, you watch your mouth right now. That's Connor McDavid's team. That's Canada's team.
Canada's team.
They're going to bring the cup home, folks. Finally, it's been 32 long years.
They're going to bring the cap home with Stan Bowman as their GM. And in case anybody didn't see it this week, I'm not sure how you did not. The Edmonton Oilers hired Stan Bowman to be their GM. I don't recall seeing like a term, but I'm sure it's 2 to 4 years to be their GM. After Jeff Jackson made quite a few great moves in the offseason.
Oh yeah,
was actually
Victor Arvidsson.
Yeah, Victor Arvidsson, Jeff Skinner.
Yeah,
did some work in the offseason. And you can't fault Jeff Jackson saying, I don't want to do both. It's fine. Perfectly fine.
Yeah, understandable.
It's a lot of work.
Those positions are usually separate in most organizations for a reason.
We talked about this, 2 weeks ago, and you think you called it?
Well, what I had said is we should put up a fucking counter on the website, counting down until Stan Bowman gets hired by the Edmonton Oilers.
And sure enough, we're hiring Stan Bowman.
Alex, that's pretty out of character for these Edmonton Oilers.
Is it?
Have they done something like this before?
Have they signed a contract to a man known to beat women and be a deadbeat dad and have a large amount of gambling debt?
I feel like I would remember if that happened.
I do too. Would they have hired a man that has still an unquestioned incident in front of stakeholders and team employees and team investors that still has the story has not been fully confirmed what happened? Would they hire that person, or would they sign that person?
It would depend. If he had a long career of being an upstanding guy and a really good reputation, I think they would let it pass.
Let it pass. Well, they did, and now they let.
Jeez, this guy must have been a peach, a gem.
He must have been.
He must have a reputation for being he must be a Lady Bing winner.
Yeah, at the time he must have been a 30 to 40 goal scorer. No, he wasn't. Neither of these guys were. Both these guys were Evander Kane and Corey Perry, who at the time both were,
Evander Kane and Corey Perry.
Wow. But
isn't Corey Perry's nickname the Worm? Who could have seen this coming?
Who could have seen this coming? Isn't there a video online of Evander Kane pointing a gun at his ex-wife?
Yeah. I can neither confirm nor deny.
Say that Evander Kane's ex-wife is crazy, but that's also victim shaming. Maybe she's a little crazy. Maybe they both got something wrong with them.
Well, I don't know if you knew this, Alex, but we believe victims around here. We have faith in the victims unless it makes our hockey team better.
Exactly.
And then we just kind of let it slide,
Exactly.
Alex, it's been 32 years, man.
Yeah.
Some things are more important, you know?
Winning's more important than
Can you imagine how pumped that crowd in Edmonton would be if they had a cup parade with Connor McDavid?
Mm-hmm.
Some things are more important.
And again, that all goes to show that Stan Bowman got hired, and we talked about it last week. He only had, God forbid, 2 years off of not being in the NHL.
Hey, that's a pretty big punishment, man.
Big punishment.
No criminal charges. You know, he ruined someone's life. Let someone escape to ruin more lives.
I wouldn't even say just one person's life. Yeah, Kyle Beach's life was ruined. He's never going to be the same. But Stan Bowman, Joe Quenneville, Al McIsaac, they didn't say anything, and that man ruined multiple young men's lives. Young men that would be still in their early 20s right now, and could be in hockey leagues or something, but were ruined because they let a predator out into the public.
This can't be true, because why would someone hire this guy? But it sounds like gross negligence, like borderline criminal, you know. But I must be wrong, because this guy's working 2 years later, you know.
He's working 2 years later. But you're gonna say, oh, he must be a great GM for them to hire. He wasn't.
I mean, Alex, the Chicago Blackhawks, they won cups, bro.
They won cups because of the previous GM that put all those pieces into place.
Oh, come on, man. He must have made some good moves, like
signing and trading for Seth Jones and signing him to an $11 million contract.
I mean, that's Seth Jones, man. He's Seth Jones.
Seth Jones for 1 year in Columbus, and now he's been bad.
I mean, there must have been other moves. Did he maybe trade for a goalie, with a $7 million cap hit, because they were convinced they were good enough to make the playoffs that year?
No way.
No,
it couldn't have happened.
I mean, so we've established this he's moral. He's a good guy that you'd want to have a beer with.
He's a great GM.
He's also smart. He makes good moves. He does the unpopular thing. Okay, he doesn't look the fans in the eye and say, sometimes you have to let a fan favorite go if you want to win. No, he says, hey guys, I know we've been dog shit for 5 years, but don't worry. We're going to sign Seth Jones, and we're going to trade for Marc-Andre Fleury. All is well. All is well. Well, sometimes you just got to do it. That's a smart GM move right there.
Yeah, smart GM. Smart GM move, to trade Artemi Panarin, Dmitry Kulikov, and
I mean, he must have gotten something good back. I mean, off the top of your head, can you think of who he got? What would be a good trade for Artemi Panarin? Well, even then, I mean, he had to have there had to have been more guys there. I mean, maybe a guy like Teuvo Teravainen. How would you let him go? There's no way you would let a guy go and he would be a top 6 forward on a cup contender for a few years, right? Who would do that?
Who? I could only imagine who.
This Bowman, folks, he's great. I'd love to have a beer with him. He's that kind of guy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'd love to have a beer with him, and then he's not going to tell you that somebody came up and put some roofies in your drink and not warned you about the possibility of you getting assaulted.
Alex, have the Blackhawks been in the playoffs once since us young Vegas fans have been in the league?
Hey, they were a play-in in the bubble.
Oh yeah, that's right. And then they got eliminated. So
Yep. But now I know we were not joking, but we were coming at that as a kind of a theoretical and a jokey mood. But in all seriousness, this hire is terrible. It's terrible for the league. I mean, we hate Edmonton. It's terrible for Edmonton.
Is this as bad as putting Mark Stone on LTIR, though?
Oh, it's got to be the same
At least
level.
the same.
Same level.
At least the same.
The
Stone on LTIR, that's probably a little worse in my mind.
It's Stone and LTIR killing a child.
Yeah.
Stan Bowman getting hired.
Okay, that sounds about right.
Yeah.
And then a big gap.
And
trade. What are some things that some other teams done? I mean, it's kind of hard to believe that, a scrappy team like Carolina would trade for Tony DeAngelo,
Mm-hmm. Oh, and Brendan Leipzig.
Known bigots and pieces of shit and cokeheads and cheaters and liars.
Or signing Evgeny Kuznetsov, known cokehead. Or, at Colorado hanging on to Nichushkin as long as possible, known somehow escort purchaser. And
Alex, that's Nate Dogg's team, dude. Colorado, man, they're a fucking wagon. They are the Western wagon. That's the next Sidney Crosby. How can you deprive him of a Russian cokehead that keeps Ukrainian sex slaves in his hotel?
God forbid.
My favorite thing, guys? My favorite thing is when you listen to these guys with connections that don't want to lose those connections, or, former players, or, actual journalists. And, they just the way they phrase it, like, well, he had that unfortunate situation. Yeah, there was a drugged up Ukrainian sex slave in his room, but, it was just unfortunate. There's a little misunderstanding there, folks. It's just something bad. We don't know what happened. We don't know what happened. We're not here to cast aspersions. He went to the player assistance program. He's good. All better. That's a noble thing. That's a noble thing to go to the player assistance program. So, I'm sure that Ukrainian sex slave is
living well.
Living well. While
it's okay. While
Valentin gets a few cold $1 million to, do coke and fuck his team over 2 playoff rounds in a row.
Yep.
Totally. But hey, folks, Vegas. Vegas.
Tara put Mark Stone in LTIR, and we drafted Trevor Connolly. Terrible things.
Yeah, just awful, despicable, morally bankrupt. Worst team in the league, guys. Worst team in the fucking league.
Yeah, most hated. I didn't even know it's where to go. It's you say that embrace the hate because they hate you because you're the best. And I think that's an argument you can make. It's like we've been so good for so long. There's a reason to hate us, but then there's also the irrational hate of, oh, they're doing LTIR again, or they're putting all these players in LTIR. I'm like, yeah, if your GM and your owner wanted to spend the money, they would do the same thing.
I don't know if you guys knew this, but the purpose of LTIR is if a player gets injured for a long time, you can go out and acquire another player or multiple players to recoup that value. And misses 6 weeks, you can go out and get players that equal his dollar amount. This is a radical idea, folks. Radical.
I mean, if the Edmonton ownership and at the time Ken Holland cared, they would have. I mean, they made the Stanley Cup final, but they could have put Evander Kane on LTIR for hernia surgery.
They could have.
And picked up a $5 to $6 million player. Evander Kane was ready to come back, put him back in the lineup, and they could have had won a cup last year.
They could have, but Alex, that other guy you pick up, you still have to pay him, and you still have to pay Evander. It doesn't show up on the cap hit, but you have to pay him. And I think that's really what it is people are like, why don't other teams do this? It's because the owners do not want to spend the money.
Yep.
It's because NHL owners, let's be real, folks, the NHL is the lowest tier of the major sports. The guys that own these teams are misers, and especially the ones in Canada where they're taking in Canadian dollars but paying everyone in American dollars.
And they're mostly owned by corporations. I mean, what? The Leafs are owned by a conglomerate, right? Mm-hmm. I think the Oilers are owned by one person, but he's a part of a group. The Ottawa's, Jesus. The Senators are owned by a group.
Regardless, the fact is, as you say, hey, we can make the team better if we spend 6.3 on someone else. And I think most owners are going to say,
why would we pay that much more money?
The salary cap is this. This is what I was expecting to spend. This is what I'm going to spend. Make it work. You got Connor McDavid on your team, dude. Make it work.
Mm-hmm. And they've tried to. I mean, how many cups has Edmonton won since Connor McDavid's been there?
Fucking 0.
Yeah. So,
how many playoff rounds have they won? They got 3 this year.
Yeah.
Good for them. It's been 2s and 1s and 0s for a while.
This is the first they've gotten ever since Connor McDavid there. It's been there. They got to the Western Conference Final once before that. I mean, again,
don't worry, folks. He's 28. Plenty of time.
Plenty of time. Jack Eichel won one before him. It's just the fact that it's the hate is we hate you because you're successful, but we also hate you because deep down they know that their owners and the GMs could be doing more.
One person that I periodically kind of hate, but I'll give him respect for this. Whit from Spittin' Chicklets,
Mm-hmm.
Huge Oilers fucking guzzler. But yeah, after the whole, getting Hannafin and Hurdle and all that, he did kind of say, he's like, I forgot who he was responding to. He's like, you want me to say it? You want me to say it? He's like, I'm fucking jealous, all right? I'm fucking jealous.
Yeah, it's jealousy.
I wish my owner would do shit like this, like find a way to just win no matter what. Like,
mm-hmm.
It's all legal, fucking.
Yeah, it's all within the CBA, all within all the agreements. There's nothing that Vegas is doing that's illegal. And I'll be like, well, they put him on LTIR, and that's a lie, and it doesn't happen. multiple NHL doctors checked Mark Stone and said, "Oh no, this is a legitimate injury," and then you'll go back and say, "Well, those doctors are just paid off and they're lying," but for what?
It sounds like an awful lot like conspiracy. Sounds an awful lot like supporters of certain movements in our country, where the truth is just never
enough.
Exactly, it's all a grand lie. It's all a grand lie. The NHL took them 10 years to organize a fucking 4-nation face-off, but somehow they're competent enough to execute these conspiracies flawlessly.
Yeah, it took them. Yeah, they can execute these. Certain teams can win. Conspiracy theories, but they can't find a way to make more money on merch and outside sales outside from their largest money make ticket sales.
Yep.
But going into just that general hate for Vegas, it's just I'll accept it, but it does make me angry when teams could do other things and not be brought back into the forefront of why they should be hated more. I'll give it to, I saw it online. I'll give it to plenty of Edmonton fans I saw online of going, this is the terrible move. I don't understand why we're doing this. This is terrible. Not only is he a bad person, he's a bad GM. Like, it's just the overall terrible. I even saw one guy on the story say that he was a season ticket holder for decades, cancel all his season tickets, canceled his TV subscriptions, will never watch a game, never go to a game as long as Stan Bowman's hired. And I respect that. I fully respect that.
Me too. And it feels like something that, might be a little exaggerated in the sense like, are you really going to do that? Because I've heard people say things about like Vegas fans, like they traded Fleury, I'm done. I'm like, hey, I was very upset by that. And
it happens. That happens all the time.
That was a dick move. But let's be real here. Marc-Andre Fleury's a fucking millionaire.
Mm-hmm.
All these players are rich as fuck.
Yeah,
the lowliest NHL player will forever be leagues above what I can ever do with my life ever.
And again, that happens.
So I'm sorry you had to move. Sorry you had to pull little Timmy out of class and go buy a house in Vancouver. It fucking happens, dude.
It happens. I mean, look at the not Martin Brodeur. I'm sorry, he was with the Devils the entire time. Look at the Patrick Roy situation where he was in Montreal and they were running him into the ground. And there was a game where defense and the team was not playing in front of him. He wasn't having a game. He let in like 8 or 10 goals or some shit like that. And the coach said, "Nope, you're staying in." And then guess where Wall went after that? Fucking got traded to fucking Colorado and
guess who won the cup?
Cup after that. It happens. It like everybody talks about this like general like idea of loyalty that for some reason permeates the league, and that both the GMs and ownership and abide by that. But again, like we've mentioned before, and also what people fall back on when things don't go their way of their opinion, it's a business.
Yes, and it's funny because we called one of our episodes "It's a Business," and it was a decision that we were very critical of. At the end of the day,
yep,
it was a business decision by both the management group and by the player.
Yep,
and I hold no resentment really for either of them.
Yep,
I maybe think they could have tried a little harder, but hey, management doesn't want to sign a 33-year-old forward. I get it. The forward doesn't want to, have his money stashed away for 5 years. I also get it.
And be at a risk of losing the ball. Whereas this move is 100% opposite of it being a business. This is a shock splash in the ownership looking at only on paper. They won 3 cups while he was a GM. They don't look on paper on
who drafted
who built that team to win those cups. Now, it wasn't Stan Bowman. It also wasn't Stan Bowman alone in those first couple of years. His dad was helping him.
Yeah. And what they're really not looking at, and it's funny because I feel like there's this attitude where it's like, well, do we have to keep talking about it? Who's probably not over it is the guy that got fucking assaulted by the coach. To me, it's failure of leadership at the highest level. And I get it. Stan Bowman did not assault anyone. Stan Bowman did not approve of the assault of anyone.
But he didn't
But he let it happen under his watch. And sometimes heads have to fucking roll. And he was informed. He knew something was happening between Kyle and the fucking piece of shit.
Yep.
He didn't look further into it. He didn't think, maybe this middle-aged coach and this, teenager on my team, maybe there's a power imbalance. Mm-hmm. Maybe the teenager, maybe he wants it to happen. What do I know? I don't know how those queers function.
Mm-hmm.
It's so fucking stupid.
Yeah, and then it came out later. It said, "Oh, Stan Bowman spoke with Kyle Beach, and Kyle Beach was, okay with everything." Stan, did you talk to
Did you talk to the literal minor?
The minor that was assaulted? Did you talk to the still unnamed Black Ace number 2?
Yep.
That was also assaulted? Did you talk to their college kids that were assaulted? No, he didn't.
Stan Bowman can say whatever the fuck he wants. But the fact of the matter is that Black Ace number 2 and I think Kyle as well still have an NDA in place.
Mm-hmm.
So they can't say anything.
Yeah. Well,
and maybe Kyle
Black
can.
Ace number 2 definitely has an NDA in place because we would know who he is by now.
Exactly. And so maybe Kyle doesn't have an NDA, but guess what? Maybe he doesn't want to focus on the time that he was fucking assaulted.
Yep.
And
maybe he's trying to move past that.
Maybe he wants to move on and have a
as
life
much as possible. He doesn't want to rehash that situation. But you know what's going to happen? He might be watching hockey, and every time the Blackhawks come on, it's going to have Stan Bowman coming out of the gym.
And every time the fucking Edmonton Oilers come on now.
Yeah, no, I'm saying the Blackhawks. Every time the Oilers come on.
I mean, yeah. I find it hard to believe that he has many fond memories
of being a Blackhawk.
That crest. Of that organization.
And keep in mind, Kyle Beach wasn't some just plug kid. He was a high draft pick.
Yeah.
He was a high-end prospect that had a lot of talent, that had a bright future in the NHL, and it was all ruined because of one monster. Then ruined again because of multiple men that refused to report that man. And
don't forget his own teammates, including American heroes like Jonathan Toews and Patrick Kane.
Jonathan Toews is Canadian, I believe.
Who cares?
Regardless. But yeah.
Who cares? These all-stars.
Toews, Kane, Keith.
Instead of being leaders, another team that people hate is Boston, right? You know what I give Boston huge credit for? When when their organization called up that racist piece of shit kid.
Yeah, Mitchell Miller.
Bergeron and Marchand said, "This isn't cool.
We're not playing. We're not
playing with this kid. We don't like this." You know what Patrick Kane and Jonathan Toews didn't do? They didn't say, "Oh my God, one of our young prospects is getting assaulted. Maybe we should say something." No, actually, let's call him an FAAG.
Yep. Call him the F slur. Call him
He's
names.
an FAAG.
Yep. Instead of standing up for your teammate.
Yeah. Yeah.
Or standing up for what you know is right. Because even then...
Hey, Patrick Kane, American hero. Have you seen those shootout moves, man? 88. Showtime.
Even Marchand and Bergeron, they weren't standing up for teammate. They were standing up for they knew morally what was right and wrong. Again, if that's
they drew a harder line for something that was less immediate to them.
Mm-hmm.
So hey, good for them. Good for the Boston Bruins. Good for Patrice Bergeron.
Yep. Good for Brad Marchand. But you could do all these things and push all these things away, and just be hired back as a GM. And I frankly won't be surprised if Joel Quenneville gets hired as a head coach somewhere.
He hasn't, is because there was so much coach turnover this last year. Every position's been filled.
Mm-hmm.
And you best believe if they did not have that whole debacle with fucking Mike Babcock, Columbus would have hired him the second he became available.
Dean Evison, is the Columbus head coach now, which I think is great for them.
Same.
But you best believe if Chris Knoblauch fucks up this year, you goddamn know very well who's going to be that head coach next season.
And it's funny because within this, I can already see, Sportsnet and all the TSN and all the Canadian media like, well, if you put that unfortunate business aside, obviously Bowman and Quenneville had some real synergy. They've had a lot of success together in the past, and they're hoping to bring this success to Edmonton.
The success was only because
Edmonton
of
fans,
yeah.
Those Edmonton fans, they're going to hear that and they're like, "Oh my God, I sure would love to have 3 cups in 6 years. Do I have to sell my soul? Sure, but I
could, again, now we're going to start the countdown until Edmonton signs Vladimir Nichushkin for a league minimum. Edmonton signs Carter Hart. Edmonton signs Dylan Dubé.
That was the joke that was going around, and I was like, "Oh, that's funny."
It's not even a joke anymore.
I say, but it's not funny because we know that they would do that 100%.
Yeah,
they would not hesitate.
No,
I remember the last, our last episode of the year before that, or the episode before that, you said to me like, if they hire Bowman, do you think Connor McDavid or the coach, or do you think anyone, or the fans, do you think anyone's going to say anything? And I was like, no.
At least the fans, from what I've seen,
Some of them have
said. But
granted, we're in the middle of July. You know, people aren't focusing on hockey right now.
But then again, those fans that you do see are fans online, which are probably closer in line with our age and our kind of our morals, right? Within less plus or minus 10 years of our age.
Sexual assault bad.
Yeah. Whereas are the fans that are, again, nothing to say against older people, but are older fans that have been fans for this team since the Gretzky era and earlier than that, are they really going to think that a guy that could put things together and make these moves work, are they really going to have anything wrong with that?
Is Cup Lady going to say this is a red line? You know,
I would hope so. But again, you say that, but people have purchased Evander Kane jerseys. And I've seen them in arenas. I've seen them out around.
Evander Kane, who, as we all know, is a woman-beating, gambling addict, degenerate piece of shit. As he's sitting there pummeling Keegan Colasar on the ice, defenseless. I don't know if you know this, Alex. There's this thing called the code. It's this romanticized idea of hockey fighting. You don't do certain things. Mm-hmm. You don't do certain things. And if you do have to fight, you keep to the code, and that's what keeps you safe. Well, when Evander Kane does it, it's okay because it's the playoffs and it's the Edmonton Oilers. It's okay.
Mm-hmm. It's okay then.
It's okay.
it's just unbelievable to me that a guy like this can still get a job. Again, we say a guy like this, Stan Bowman didn't commit, as far as we know, didn't commit any crimes, didn't do anything that was actively, a part of the criminal act, but he covered it up.
Covered it up. And at worst, he actively covered it up. At best, he
ignored it.
And that's their defense, right?
Either way,
that's always your defense in these situations, that you feigned ignorance.
And even if at best it's ignored, it's the same thing.
Yeah, same end result.
Like, you knew it was happening. The guy still went on to assault multiple college students, a second player on your team, and then a minor. Like, I don't understand how this is not being looked at as heavily as, for example, what happened with the U.S. gymnastics team.
Yeah, exactly. Olympics are on right now.
Yeah.
It's kind of hard to
not remember what happened.
To not remember that when you see the
terrible.
The
you see these girls that are on here. Like, maybe it's not all of them, but you see a couple of the stars that are still, competing that were assaulted by that man, and you can't draw a parallel to a tree like what happened with this guy from Chicago, where he ended up not only assaulting one person but tens of people. And
another thing that kills me is, like, it's not like, we're taking some working class schmuck and casting him aside and, like, you have to, because you made a mistake. I don't know his net worth. I have a funny feeling that Stan Bowman is going to be just fine.
Even if he didn't
get
rehired as a GM, he would still be a millionaire.
Yeah.
He made millions of dollars.
I have a feeling that he's made a lot of money in his life.
He made a million.
If he was smart with it, he's probably going to be just fine until the day he fucking
He made
dies.
millions of dollars while he was a GM. And you know what? His dad made tens of millions of dollars before that, being a successful GM and coach.
Alex, I don't know if you knew
that family's set for life.
These hockey guys, they have cottages, man, for the summer. They have to go to their cottage. You have to pay for that cottage, man.
Oh,
I don't know about you. I know you and I, we have many beach homes, cottages,
and secondary homes.
We're certainly not working 9 to 5s.
Exactly. Not working 9 to 5s, renting the homes we're living in. And, living at the point of almost living paycheck to paycheck, or have student loans. And
no, exactly.
We just freely move around to our summer homes or winter homes and do whatever we want.
Yeah. So, God forbid someone, be prevented from working in the NHL for 2 years. 2 years, that's such a long time. But hey, he's back now. I really wish they would disclose his contract. I would love to hear how much money he's making.
Because Ken Holland was making a good amount of money.
Oh, yeah. They all do. They all do.
Dog shit.
Yeah.
The best thing that Ken Holland ever did was what? Draft. Was Ken Holland even the GM when they drafted Leon Draisaitl?
I don't know. Even then, I'm not going to give you kudos for drafting obvious
a superstar. Yeah.
Like, yeah, we drafted Connor McDavid #1 overall. Cool, dude.
Yeah.
Wow. What a smart hockey mind. Good for you.
The best thing that Ken Holland ever did was trade for Matthias Ekholm
and sign Zach Hyman.
Yeah.
Yeah. So hey, good moves there. Good for you.
Good job.
You also gave Darnell Nurse $9 million.
Yeah. I just
also got Cody Cece on your team. You know.
It's just mind-boggling because like what during the week it was a thing where like, oh, they're not going to hire him as the GM. He's going to be an assistant or
he's going
to be an advisor.
He's going to be a senior advisor to the GM.
And even then, it's too close to the.
He shouldn't have a job at all.
No,
he shouldn't have a job at all. But I guess the argument is in that he's not in that front-facing position. He's not. You know what I mean?
He's still in your organization.
Yeah.
Even if it was that. But then
you're still paying him a lot of fucking money.
And then it comes out.
A lot of Canadian maple dollars.
Yeah, and then it comes out there's hiring him as the GM. I'm like, it's appalling. It's, it's just throwing everything in the face of what everybody knows is right. Just throwing that like, oh, you're mediocre at your job for 5 to 6 years.
I wouldn't say mediocre. I'd say fucking awful.
Yeah, you could be bad at your job and just come back here. But on top of being bad at your job, you could cover up sex crimes and allow that person that committed them to go on to commit more sex crimes. But you have a job in the NHL as an executive if you want to.
Is any of that as bad as giving up Nick Suzuki for Max Pacioretty?
That trade is way worse than hiring a
who does that?
Cover-up artist.
Who does that? Who just gives away prospects like that? Let's just point and laugh.
Just the worst people ever to walk this earth.
Is that worse than trading a goalie who's had like $30 million in career earnings away? I mean, that's morally bankrupt right there.
Mm-hmm.
Morally bankrupt.
Putting into perspective of teams' hatreds. I even saw it online where it's like, oh, Vegas got lucky. Now that Edmonton did this, I'm like, why would you even say that? Like these are not comparable things. Like even Carolina trading for Tony DeAngelo. Yes, Tony DeAngelo was a piece of shit. He said terrible things. Brendan Leipzig also did terrible things. Piece of shit. But this is not even comparable. Those guys that you can cut at any given time that you don't have you do have a money obligation, but you can cut them or,
bury them in the minors,
them somewhere.
Trade them for pennies.
You could get rid of that situation.
Terminate a contract.
This is putting a man that covered up multiple sexual assaults into the same position he had when he did this, putting him in the same position of power and giving him the reins not only to be controlling the team as a person that covered up things, but
he's the boss. Let's be real.
He's the boss.
We all have jobs, right, guys?
Yeah.
We all know that the boss sets the tone.
He's the boss. And then also a man that was actually bad at his job and made terrible trades, traded away superstars, young superstars in the making, traded for guys that were overpaid, overrated at desperate grasps at trying to win. You're installing a younger version of Ken Holland, a dumber version of Ken Holland. It's just the old boys club of, oh, look at these numbers they put up.
It's basically like just all the toxic hockey traits that you can imagine, old boys club, rewarding mediocrity,
yep.
And
then
covering up fucking crime.
We also made that statement of, do you think anybody on the team would say something? Maybe not, or they might, but then
they didn't get the opportunity.
They didn't get the opportunity because it also came out later that Jeff Jackson did not talk to anybody on the team, let alone Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl, two guys that are up for contracts.
Two guys that are basically deciding
your fate of your
fate of your franchise for the next 10 years.
Yeah. And he didn't bother to.
They're just players, Alex. Fuck them. Who cares?
They're only your center stones of your franchise, your faces of your franchise. One of them has only sold so many Oilers jerseys outside of, Gretzky. Yeah. You could say Jeff Jackson said, like, well, I don't have to consult the players. I'm like, well, the players are the people that are playing for that GM and for your coach. Did he talk to Chris Knobloch about this? Did he talk about, like, I would love to know if he talked to Knobloch about this because Knobloch's been coaching kids.
Mm-hmm.
Kids that the guy that was covered up for assaulted.
I guarantee you he didn't.
I would assume Knobloch has something to say about that because he coached teenagers that that man assaulted.
Mm-hmm.
Not the same teenagers, but teenagers
of that
age and of that mind. Like a man that was coaching and forming young men in their sports lives. You don't think the guy like that would have something to say about bringing a person on that covered up a man that assaulted college kids, teenagers, young adults, and then even to Knobloch and McDavid and Draisaitl. But then again, you've got a guy like Evander Kane on the team too. That's
exactly, but
kind of
well
hard to,
before any of this Bowman stuff happened.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, Evander Kane, kind of known as a piece of shit throughout the league, but there's kind of that trope, right, where it's like, well, he's a prick on the ice, but off the ice, he's a gentleman.
Nobody likes him. There's that famous picture of coming off the ice, and he was injured, and he's like going to fist bump his teammates, and Dustin Byfuglien just walked right by him to even look at him in the eye. Bufflin. Hey,
that's Bufflin, man.
It's G's and I's and E's, but Dustin Bufflin, which also from what you can tell, Dustin Bufflin is a pretty good guy. He lives a quiet life now, and
I was say he walked away from the NHL just so he could like fish and drink beer.
Yeah,
Fucking
and
love it.
For a guy like that to go, I'm not gonna even talk to you. I'm not even gonna look at you in the eye. I'm not gonna touch you. Yeah. He knew he was a piece of shit already.
Yeah. So Evander Kane, let's break that down. We all know him as a piece of shit. If you're a Vegas fan, you know what he's done to our players. His attitude. But there's a lot to get into. So April 3rd, 2014, a Vancouver resident filed a police report saying that he was assaulted by Evander Kane when he was returning home from work. He suffered a concussion and an unspecified permanent physical disability from this incident. So that's 2014. June 12th, 2014, Kane admits that he threw 3 punches at this guy, but he claims it was out of self-defense. So Evander Kane's a hockey player. He knows how to box.
Yep.
I don't know about you, but if I'm a big guy, I know how to box. Coming home at night, if I see a guy, I'm going to feel pretty threatened. I'm not going to feel sure of myself at all. I'm going to have to throw those punches, man.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not going to defuse the situation at all. So Vancouver police investigate. They ultimately decline to charge Kane. August 21st, 2016. This is when he's in Buffalo. Buffalo woman files a civil lawsuit in Erie County saying that Evander Kane sexually assaulted her in her hotel room on Boxing Day 2015. It's December 26th for our fellow Americans. She states that she met Kane at a restaurant in Buffalo. He invited her to a party under false pretenses and then proceeded to assault her in his hotel room.
Jesus.
No criminal complaint was ever filed against Kane. And it was called a sham. It was a sham. So obviously this guy's already has a history, right? And hey, I wasn't there. I can't say for sure what happened. Maybe it was a sham. But as we're seeing right here, there is kind of a pattern of behavior that doesn't seem to be happening around other players. And I've seen some people, is it racially motivated? There's not a lot of black players in the league, but there's some. How many allegations does Keegan Kolesar have? How many allegations did Dustin Byfuglien have?
0.
Yeah, okay.
How many allegations does Ryan Reeves have?
0. Ryan Reeves is a well-respected member of our community.
Yeah,
he still lives here.
What about Devontae Smith-Pelly and Malcolm Subban and PK Subban? And
apparently Malcolm Subban's biggest transgression was liking some feet pics on Twitter.
God forbid.
Back when likes Republics.
Yeah, God forbid the man likes some feet.
Hey, who am I to judge?
Yep.
Back to our friend Evander. Great guy. 2016, Halloween. Judge dismisses a case against Evander. I don't think it was very known at this time. But it goes back to June of 2016, where Evander was alleged to have grabbed 3 women by their hair and neck in separate incidents in a nightclub in Buffalo. He was arrested in July 2016. He maintained he did nothing wrong. Ultimately dismissed. So again, if it was a one-off, maybe it was a misunderstanding. I don't know. Like I said, I tend to believe the victim, but who knows? Who knows? But again, this is a pattern of behavior that seems to be happening pretty regularly.
Yep.
November 4th, 2019, the Cosmopolitan here in good old Las Vegas, they file a lawsuit against Evander Kane, $500,000. It's a lot of money, Alex. It's a lot of money.
More money than I'll ever see.
Same. So Cosmo basically said we gave him $500,000 worth of gambling markers while he was visiting during their playoff series. Never paid it. Never got back to them. To the point that they filed legal action saying we demand restitution. Now this one, I will admit, folks, was pretty funny because the next game against the Sharks, we all got to chant, "Pay your marker." That was pretty fun.
Mm-hmm.
That being said, as a Vegas resident, I don't take too kindly to people not paying out what they owe.
Yep.
That's how we get fed, folks. That's
Yep.
that's why the city exists.
Yep.
I'm not afraid to admit that. I will break your knees. You come to the city and you don't pay your bill, I will break your kneecap. January 11th, 2021. Evander Kane for 7 bankruptcy. $26.8 million in debt. This guy's a pro athlete, folks. Makes a lot of money.
Yeah, apparently not enough.
Alex, how would you spend $26.8 million?
If I had $26.8 million, you'd never hear from me and never see from me ever again.
I'm a little hurt by that.
I
would think you would take me with you wherever you're going.
Disappear into existence, so wherever it may be.
I would buy a house, buy a car, and put the rest in an interest earning account.
Something like that. But again, you'll never hear from
It certainly wouldn't be here. I love Las Vegas, but I would be, I don't know, either on a tropical island or in the woods. So I'd have to decide which one.
Yep.
So here's the kind of I don't want to say juicy. These have been kind of juicy. There's some criminal activity going on here. July 31st to August 1st, 2021. Anna Kane, that's Evander's wife,
Ex-wife,
estranged wife, makes a series of posts on her Instagram story alleging that Kane bet on his own games. Now, you could say, maybe there's drama between them. Maybe she's making shit up. The Shane Pinto situation, I won't say that was phony. He broke a rule, but it's not like too bad.
He was letting his buddies bet on games.
It was proxy betting, so against the rules, it happens.
It happens.
Do you have any problem believing that this guy would perhaps bet on his own games?
Nope.
Yeah, zero. I just think of that picture of him on the roof of the Cosmo holding up the wad of cash to his ear like a telephone, and the fact that he was already $26 million in debt. That'll make you do crazy things, man.
Yep.
Make you do crazy things.
Yep.
Ask Robin Lehner. Bets on his own games. August 2021, woman named Hope Parker files a lawsuit against Evander, alleging that he paid her $2 million for her pregnancy from him.
I forgot about this.
It's crazy. There's just so many controversies I kind of forgot about. I just only remember the juiciest ones, That's pretty juicy though, right? Imagine if Ryan Reeves did that.
Mm-hmm.
Imagine if Mark Stone did that.
Yeah.
Wow. And the big one, folks. The big one, September 22nd, 2021. Anna Kane files a domestic violence restraining order against Evander Kane as part of her divorce case, which includes instances of sexual assault and several instances of domestic battery allegations. In a separate statement, the NHL said it found no evidence that Kane had bet on his own games. Well, that's the big one, right?
Mm-hmm.
You don't want to bet on your own games.
Yeah, it's the betting on your own games.
You want to rape your wife, beat the shit out of her. Well, that's just how it goes. That's no big deal. Just don't bet on your own games. That's what money. God forbid. God forbid. October 18th, 2021, Evander Kane is suspended for 21 games for submitting a fake COVID-19 vaccination card. We won't get into it, folks. We won't get into the COVID thing. It's behind us. But I think you can agree that that's a pretty shitty thing to do for your teammates.
Yep.
For your team, for yourself.
Especially...
Certainly fraud of some kind, I would think.
And 2021, it was...
I don't know.
Either way, you're still playing teams in Canada.
Yeah.
You're playing teams. You're playing a minimum 3 teams up there, and possibly 4 with Winnipeg. It's a shitty thing to do. Like, regardless of what you think of about it, we won't get into that portion. But just on adding that icing on top of already the shit cake that he's already rolling in with. Not only are you a terrible person to women and your own family, but let's also fuck your teammates on top of that.
Yeah, exactly. Lovable guy. Great guy. November 28th, 2021. Evander Kane is waived by the Sharks after his suspension and is demoted to the Barracuda. I remember us joking about this. We were excited. We're like, oh my God, Barracuda's playing Henderson. We might get to see Evander. Oh, just imagine the chirps we could have had.
Oh, man. I was looking forward to it.
We were sitting right above the enemy bench at that
time.
Season.
Yep.
Oh, man. That would have been glorious. He probably would have beat the shit out of me in the parking lot. Would have been worth it.
Yep. Hey, you would have been able to sue him for the money he doesn't have. And that's when he got picked up by the Oilers right after that.
I'll
right?
say January 8th, 2022. Kane is placed on unconditional waivers to terminate his contract. San Jose says they will not comment further on the matter.
Hey, I'll give it to San Jose. He fucking hit the accelerator on being a piece of shit that year, and they said, you know what? We're done.
Yep. So that was January 8th. January 12th, unprompted, Connor McDavid lets the press know that he thinks Evander Kane's getting a bad rap and that he would not be against him being acquired. So good job, Connor. Good for you. And then shortly thereafter, sure enough, sure as shit, sure as Stan Bowman was hired, and sure as Valerie Nichushkin will be signed in 3 months, Evander Kane became an Edmonton Oiler.
All this to go and say that this ownership has a pattern of, in recent years, fan opinions, general
disregarding morals and ethics.
Morals and ethics, and hiring what they believe is the best, hiring or signing what they believe is the best thing for them, even though those best things are actually terrible people. It's a spit in the face of loyal fans, at least with this Bowman hire. People that have any support for Evander Kane.
They did not look too upset 2 months ago. They seemed pretty ravenous. They were very okay with Evander Kane being
very okay, yeah. And then again, like, people are okay with having that. Those fans are okay with having Evander Kane on the team.
Hey, at least they didn't put him on LTIR. That would have been
God forbid.
That would have been
the
breaking
the
point,
worst
folks.
thing in the world. Hey, they made it the cup, but all those sins wash away. I just think it's terrible. This just makes hockey look worse. It's not even just for Edmonton; just makes hockey look worse in general.
And I won't do the deep dive, but let's also not forget Corey Perry let go from the Chicago Blackhawks. Mysterious circumstances.
Still have no idea what was done, but the rumor was that he
got drunk, made a fool of himself at a team event, maybe made a pass at a female team employee,
or said something insensitive to somebody. Either or, it doesn't get let go from that team for no reason.
Exactly. But you know who was sure to give him a job right away? The Edmonton Oilers.
Yep.
That's Canada's team, Alex. They're here to bring the cup home. I don't know if you knew this. It's happening. Thank God for Connor McDavid bringing that cup home.
Yeah, and the fact that Connor McDavid,
Gary Bettman is Voldemort. Connor McDavid is Harry Potter.
I didn't know that Connor McDavid said that Evander Kane's getting a bad rap. I'm sure Connor's perfectly fine with Stan Bowman being the GM.
Well, I don't know much about Connor McDavid because he has no personality. So I assume that he would...
Whatever it takes to win.
I assume if someone gave him an infant and a knife and said, do this deed and you will win 5 Stanley Cups, I don't think he would hesitate.
Oh yeah, what was that biblical story? The man splitting his son in half just because a voice told him to do it. He's like, okay.
Hockey odds.
Oh yeah, exactly.
That band is so desperate to win.
Oh yeah, I agree.
And his team is so shitty around him.
This episode was quite heavy and quite
it wasn't heavy. We're just having some fun. We're just observing, Alex.
Quite comparative. I mean, I agree with you in that
we're just talking about why the goal team is so bad.
Yeah, I agree with you that
Vegas is bad. We're the villains.
Yeah, we're villains for working within the bounds of contractual agreements and CBAs and things that are allowed to happen.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if you knew this. I know that the rules of LTIR and the salary cap they apply to every team equally. I don't know if you knew this, but
if you
we cheated.
Yeah, if you use them, it's cheating.
This rule that any team could use at any time if they have an injured player, if you actually use it, you're bad. Alex, it's not fair.
The teams that they iced against Edmonton were all cap compliant. The teams that they iced against Florida were cap compliant too.
Well, Alex, you're a Vegas fan. You don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah, I don't know how to add.
Yeah, you don't know how to do math.
Don't know math.
You don't know what icing is, bro. You're just there to cheer for the music on the Jumbotron.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't know if you knew that.
I guess so. Well, all this goes to say is that this was a fun episode. Got our anger out.
I think it was due.
I think so. I'm sure we'll have another anger spew sometime in the near future.
Probably it's never going to end. When we inevitably go through a rebuild phase, maybe it will. But frankly,
then we're gonna see they deserve it. They deserve not to be good forever. They brought this on themselves. We're gonna see hate either way.
I really don't care. It's funny. So when I first got into hockey and got into this team, I was very much intoxicated with that Cinderella run ideal. And then as the team became more hated, it sounds silly, but it would like legitimately like hurt my feelings. Like I would like see comments and stuff, and I would like, why would they say that? No, that's not true. No. And now I'm just very, very happy to be hated. I'm very happy to be up on our little golden perch and looking down on the peasants, and watching them suffer. So it's good.
We'll end this episode with this: the fastest team to ever win a Stanley Cup in their existence in 6 seasons are the Vegas Golden Knights.
Thanks, Gary.
Stay gold.
Stay gold.